morning. It's 5 a.m. I live in a small house and I don't want to wake them up, but I do have to make an election education video because I want to be very regular and consistent with this. Today we're going to speak about two things: Rise Essay and the fact that I cannot teach you who to vote for, because a lot of people keep saying, Amahle, tell us who to vote for, tell us who to vote for. And I can't, because the whole point of a democracy is that we choose, we exercise the right of freedom, the right to suffrage, the right to voting that this constitution has afforded us, right? And if I tell you who to vote for, what if this party does not act in your best interest? And I know that when people say, who do we vote for? It's like all for a collective vote so that our votes don't get divided. And I think if principally our intentions are in the same place, then just like as a consequence of that, we'll vote for the same people or for the same party. But let's quickly get into it. So, got my trusty laptop on me, and I'm gonna just Google Rise Essay. Right. I hope these people don't wake up. Rise Essay. Okay, cool. Rise Mzansi. It says. Okay. Wow, this is nice. I like their page. And I can kind of tell that they're led by young people, because whenever I go on the pages, Zabo, ANC, DA, IFP, they all look outdated. What's the other one? UTF. Yeah, Olomisa. Oh my God. I was like, wow, what's going on here? Anywho, so the first thing I see, it says, for the people, by the people. You know, that's a very popular saying in South African lexicon, even just in the world when it comes to activism, like for Africa, by Africa. You get what I'm saying? This is kind of what it looks like. I hope you can see. And look. Yeah, who's that? Why do I feel like I know this person? Okay, I don't. But anyway, so the slogan here is Rise Mzansi is a call to my Mac. Rise Mzansi is a call to South Africans, or all South Africans, who demand a better future, free from political and government neglect. So it says that Rise Mzansi is a call to all South Africans who demand a better future, free from political and government neglect and corruption. So it speaks about how millions of South Africans are not yet free, and the gains of what we made since 1994 are being reversed at an alarming rate. And I think I love the fact that they address the fact that we had these gains. It's not like we didn't have any gains after 1994 and that these gains are being reversed. So they're acknowledging unemployment, corruption, like the effects of a government that is neglecting us, and the use of like something that we keep speaking about as the youth. I think that's showing me that they're really catering to the youth. I haven't read into Rise Mzansi before, so this is literally a first impression. So then I'm pressing the lock. Yo, these Adidas. Guys, it's 5 a.m. Can they hush? Anyway, so now I press on the thing. I'm seeing an Indian man, a white girl, and a black girl. This is telling me diversity, inclusion. This is for everyone. This is for every race. This is for equitable change, right? So, Rise Mzansi is building a modern political organization of patriotic South Africans. We are organizing, mobilizing, empowering citizens to build a country where people are free and enabled to pursue happiness and well-being. Love that. People are free to pursue happiness and well-being. Let me tell you something. When South African governments are able to fulfill our wishes in terms of good public education, good public healthcare, good public amenities, a lot of our worries and our depression will go away. Let me tell you, Struus Bob, Stru Mafra. Because if you think about it, when Black South Africans are stressing about something, right? A daily thing in J, it would be people maybe living in Soweto, but they go to Joburg North schools. What are you stressing about? Number one, over number 5 a.m. Okay, or ka 4. Transport if you like 5. If you like school ka 8. Be late. That's stressful. You're not gonna get proper sleep because you do your extracurricular activities. You still have to drive on the N1 or the Golden Highway back to Soweto. By the time you get home, you have to do your homework. By the time you do your homework, it's 1 a.m. Then you don't even get a proper sleep because, again, you have to wake up at 4 a.m. Do you know the effects of not sleeping? Like, the Group Areas Act really, and a lot of the systemic things that are happening in South Africa have really facilitated the stress and the depression that happens within Black people, whether you're middle class or poor, even rich Black people. But sometimes you guys, so classist. Anywho, so let's look at their policies and their documents. Oh, wait, I didn't look at their vision and mission. Yeah. So their vision for South Africa is an equal, safe, prosperous, and united society where everyone can live a happy, dignified life. Okay. And then the mission of Rise Mzansi is to mobilize the people to take up their role as active citizens who will build the South Africa we all deserve. Rise Mzansi stands for transparency, ownership, and sustainable solutions. So that's telling me like climate stuff. And we are dedicated to fight for the needs of all South Africans with integrity, accountability, and dignity. I think the ideal of a South Africa that we all deserve is so subjective. It is so subjective because if I go to someone that is an Afrikaner, they're a farmer, they're highly white supremacist, and I say, what is the South Africa you deserve? The thing that they will imagine or the thing that they will use visual imagery to describe is not going to be the same as a South Africa that I feel we all deserve, right? For the people that continue to fight for apartheid, that is the South Africa they think they deserve, right? So I wonder how we're going to be on the same page with that. But then, so it speaks about South Africa's constitution being the pillar of their values, which I like. I know the South African constitution is a bit controversial because of the way that it allows people to secede. I don't know, it protects white supremacist thingies, apparently. I don't see it, but I'm still educating myself on that. Like, I'm still exposing myself to literature that rebuttals some of the clauses in the South African Constitution. But again, largely the South African Constitution is the most progressive document on earth, honestly, even more than the Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations. Miss Eleanor Roosevelt, your days were numbered as soon as that South African Constitution of 1996 came out. But anywho, and also the reason why I'm doing this video in the morning is because I'm going to get my hair done soon. So anyway, so their key reform priorities are: number one, they advocate for comprehensive political reforms to enhance democratic processes, representation, and citizen engagement. We, Rise Mzansi, stand for a constitutional democracy where the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa is the supreme law. That is what the South African Constitution says. Like, this is the supreme law of the land. That's why the South African Constitutional Court is the highest court of the land. Anywho, a government based on the will of the people, elected by the people. You know what? Government forgets that we're not working for them. They are working for us. Anywho, a government that accounts to the people, free, fair, and regular elections that run independently by a competent electoral commission. Is the International Electoral Commission not competent? I'm just asking. This is just a tangential question. But anywho, the right of South African people to enjoy their freedom without the fear of criminals. Anymore because anywho, even other things like you can't walk in South Africa. You can walk, but when you pay, like if you have a car, you'd prefer to use your car. People can't even jog anymore. People are getting, let's not even talk about it. Public public representatives who serve the people truthfully, honestly, and with integrity, and a professional public service appointed to, a professional public service appointed on merit and not linked to any political organization or interest group, correcting the injustices and wrongs of our past, including using affirmative action. But how else do you correct these wrongs? Because, like if we're just using BE, but like, would land expropriation without compensation be in the question? Okay. They love this well-being and community thing, community, food, patriotism, inclusion, and they stand against discrimination, the use of violence, interference with the work, exactly, corruption in police and judicial systems, the intimidation of the media, destruction of property. During protests, usually when they say destruction of property during protests, that's like, it's either they're trying to protect themselves and say, oh my God, this just formally say we don't advocate for the destruction of property during protests, or it's a dog whistle politic in that this is like a small way of condemning a lot of the protests that white people are scared of. Because when I see this, I think of Fees Must Fall. I think of a lot of valid protests that did lead to the destruction of property. I mean, even the Riverina trial had wanted that. But I don't know. Even I don't want the destruction of property, but sometimes it happens. So when those egalitarian protests happen, are you going to condemn them? I don't know. I'm just asking. So the use of public funds for personal and political gains, and the use of people's money recklessly. Then they speak about certain things. Rise Mzansi shall oversee the election process of Rise Mzansi candidates for the office of President of the Republic of South Africa, Deputy President, the members of Cabinet, the Premier and all 9 provincial legislatures, ward councillors, every single tier of governance, their legal personality and status. They're a voluntary organization incorporated in the form of a body corporate with perpetual succession. I don't know what that means. Let me Google what this means, because all those big words, honey. So it just means that it is a legal identity separate from its members and can continue to exist indefinitely. It is a voluntary organization, meaning that people volunteer. Body corporate means that Rise Mzansi is recognized as having a legal personality separate from its members. This legal structure typically provides certain advantages, such as limited liability for its members. And perpetual succession, obviously, perpetual. Like it happens over and over again. So it indicates that the organization is intended to continue its existence indefinitely. Well, let's talk about their values. So one of their values, just sell a little bit. So Rise Mzansi is a voluntary political organization whose policies are determined by its volunteers and leadership from time to time in strict accordance with the following values. Number 1, freedom. Freedom, cut me loose. Freedom, I can't move. Yeah. It means that all activities and pursuits of Rise Mzansi must further the rights of South Africans in pursuit of well-being at individual, family, and community level. Basically, freedom being the facilitator of, well-being, of happiness, of joy at every level in society. I love that they keep mentioning community. And then justice. So no justice, no peace. Anywho, which means that Rise Mzansi shall further the aim, so justice, so like no justice, no peace, which means that Rise Mzansi shall aim to further entrench the principle of fairness beyond just equality before the law, but also building a society that is fair, where income and social status do not determine whether any individual can reach their full potential. It is a society where we set out to actively reverse the legacy of colonialism and apartheid, creating a society where human dignity is paramount. I really want their manifesto to come out so I can know how they intend to actively reverse the legacy of colonialism and apartheid. Because, people like to use this jargon. I have trust issues. But I do like that they use like a lot of phrases that remind me of the Constitution. Equality, which means that Rise Mzansi shall endeavor to achieve true equality for every citizen, where with equal and meaningful access to opportunities, guys, the opportunities that we used to get from our schools versus the opportunities that people do not get in under-resourced, underfunded schools. It's crazy. People underestimate it, and that's why I don't like it when people say, oh, public schools and private schools are the same, because we end up in the same universities, but we don't end up exposed to the same opportunities to further ourselves, to have third spaces, to make friendships and networks, right? Like, even when it comes to alumni networks at our specific schools, that's why I'm not going to say it's easy to find a job, but I will say that it is easier for a lot of us to find jobs because of these alum networks. And I don't think that people who went to expensive schools face the same systemic hurdles as people who go to underfunded public schools. And so to undermine that struggle that underfunded public school children went to, it would be an egregious act on my end. But let's speak about this, right? Yes, this is. Then they go on to say, they want meaningful access to opportunities that lead to a healthy, safe, and fulfilling life, and the right to fully participate in democratic processes and the tangible benefits that flow from freedom as enshrined. Kere, they love to use South African constitutional jargon because enshrined is in the first line. Is it the first line of the South African Bill of Rights? In the Constitution, the South African Bill of Rights is chapter 2 of the Constitution, and it says, this Bill of Rights is a cornerstone of democracy in South Africa. It enshrines the rights of all people in our country and affirms the democratic values of human dignity, equality, and freedom. So I like that on their part. Even solidarity, wow, I never thought of solidarity as a value, but again, the motif of community keeps coming up in this constitution, so obviously solidarity would be a part of that. And going back to Rise Mzansi, while these problems are rooted in our history, yeesh. Oh no. I just got my first ick. Is this still recording? Yeah, I just got my first ick. It said, while these problems are rooted in history, apartheid can no longer be used as an excuse for the painful realities millions of South Africans face today. The African National Congress has governed for 29 years. Therefore, it is responsible for the state of our nation. No. No. Gotando. No. You know I'm not one to love the ANC. Number one. Number two. The ANC came into power and South Africa had a lot of debt. We are still paying for debts that the apartheid government accrued as a result of their violence and them borrowing arms and all that from other countries. That was number two. Number three, I don't like it when people address South Africa's problems, the root of South Africa's problems, as a dichotomy. It's either we blame apartheid or we blame the ANC, right? While the ANC is very corrupt and we can blame them, there is no way that we can ever say as South Africans that apartheid can no longer be used as an excuse for the painful realities of millions of South Africans. You can never say that. And to say that would be a huge oversight. It would be a huge injustice to the people who still live in spatial planning. There's 300 years of slavery, of colonization, and of systemic oppression that we as Black South Africans have to catch up for and have to overcome, right? And this is not me absolving the ANC from accountability and like removing accountability from them. That's not me doing that. What I am doing is that there's nuance to this, right? There's a gray area where we can agree that the ANC has governed for 29 years and it is responsible for the state of our nation, right? But we can also agree that we need to use apartheid as an excuse because all of these things that we are seeing now is not just the root, it is apartheid being manifested in front of our eyes. And then it also makes examples using countries like Taiwan, China, South Korea, and Thailand. How do you use Taiwan as an example of independence? These countries are not settler colonies. They are not African countries. They are not held to the same, they don't even have the resources that we have. So the neo-colonial interests in these countries versus in African countries like South Africa are different. The hurdles that we will face trying to fight off the legacy of apartheid and neo-colonialism are different. And so for people to now make a claim that, yo, banna, I was yazing, what was that Moshendiki audio? Beiza, Eves, and like, let me find that Mushendike thing. Are, yeah, touch sharp cap. I don't know. Let me not go further. But you cannot compare us to Asian countries. I think I'm just gonna end that there. I would actually like to interview someone from Mzansi just so we can clarify and we can have a debate on this. But yeah.